Aloha, dear friends. My name is Xavier, and today you're watching Oh God Guide Me, and we're joined by Adib. Say hello, Adib.
Hello, everybody. Glad to be with you.
Excellent. So today we're gonna talk to Adib about what led him to the Baha'i faith, or what drew him to the Baha'i faith and the teachings of Baha'u'llah. So Adib, go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself, where you are, where you work, where you live.
Thank you, Xavier. So I grew up in the faith originally. My mom and dad were both Baha'i growing up. So I would always go to feast. I was always a part of like the initiatives that we would have, door to door teaching, going into neighborhoods, talking about the faith. So I saw that, and that kind of made my identity as I grew up.
Mm-hmm.
As I grew up, I learned the basis of the Baha'i faith, and that in turn built my identity around it. That's the foundation, and everything kind of built up from there. So that's mainly my. And then as a Baha'i at 15, you are told, even if you're born in the faith, you're told that you need to have your own independent investigation of truth. So I was looking at all kinds of different religions: Christianity, Muslim, Islam, Buddhism, Hinduism. And after looking at all these texts, and I still return to them because as a Baha'i, we still do understand the benefits and the understandings that they have brought. I found that the Baha'i faith was the one for me. It was the one that spoke to my soul and spoke to my heart, and I felt that it's the one I wanted to continue my understanding of.
Very, very good. That's excellent. So yeah, you were born a Baha'i just like I was, and so we got to be raised, and pretty much everything that influenced us was centered around the teachings and what we did and didn't do. So to backtrack a little, what do you do now?
So right now, I'm actually pursuing my second degree. I finished my first degree in biochemistry, specializing as my emphasis was the microbes. I worked as a scribe for Scribe America for about 8 years.
Oh wow!
And then later on became the director of the Scribe Initiative in Orange County. So I've always been kind of the person that kind of helps develop things, kind of taking a leadership role. But right now, due to the thing that's happening in our current news, virology is in demand. And that was one of the things that over the last 6 years, that's something that I've developed a lot of love for and a lot of curiosity for. I got my degree in biology, but I was always curious, even from a young age, about what a virus is. So now that I, have that knowledge and we have this problem, I've, had to kind of rise out of what I was doing before that, which is, pursuing a business degree, to going back to what I know and I'm very good at in educating people and helping people understand the magnitude of a virus. So that's what I do now.
Well, that's very important work that you're doing, and it sounds like, especially now when there's a lot of misinformation or just on misunderstandings about what it is, because it's a developing process and we're still learning about it. So that's good that you have that, that education to deal with this specifically.
It's definitely like a subject material that isn't necessarily, even before this time, now that it's in the news, it's all over the place, but before this time, it wasn't something that was on the tip of people's tongues.
Oh no.
So even before, when I would talk about, I study viruses, it was seen as kind of like, oh, okay, you do that, but like, what does that mean? So it's always been like this around viruses, that there's just a lack of understanding of what they really are.
Yeah, because you ask somebody, what's DNA? And like, oh, it's what makes us. But then you ask them, what is RNA? And a lot of people are just, they don't know, because it's not common knowledge. It's not something you use every day. But now it is. So that's really cool. So the teachings in regards to your education, how did being a Baha'i affect you in your education? your educational pursuit, like in high school, in university and college?
Yeah, I
What was
mean,
some?
you know, one thing that I think, after a lot of reflection, I think I've noticed is that as a Baha'i, you understand that the core of what it means to be Baha'i, at least in my understanding, is that you love all of humanity. And for me, in high school, before I had developed like the biology inclination that I have now, I always loved every single human being that I would be surrounded with. I may have not seen eye to eye with them, but I did want to develop a relationship with them. And therefore I would benefit from that. And high school, I had friends from every single strand of the cycle. I had friends in, the groups that, were the troublemakers. I had groups with the ones that were, the valedictorians. Um, and that benefited me because I had all different people showing me the different dimensions of the human condition.
Large amount of perspective and different views that go along with that. Yeah, that's great. That's great. So the Baha'i teachings, they teach that oneness of humanity, and we're really seeing that now. How really interconnected we are, because everyone in the world is affected by this in some way right now. And this is just one thing. It's one thing. And it goes to show the teachings of Baha'u'llah that unity of mankind is truly that. It's a one integrated system.
And I think, that point is perfectly put, is that we can't say that one is segregated from the other. To say that like the US, the beautiful thing is like saying that, just because this virus was in China, meaning that the US is immune and is not going to get hit as hard. We're looking now and we're getting hit even harder. So it's something that I think humanity needs to recognize, because if we look at it from other ways, money, GDP, we can say, oh, there's a difference. But when it's the human condition, it's very, very black and white.
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So what kind of work are you in? Any kind of work specifically in regards to COVID-19?
So mainly right now. So when I was younger, it started when I was in high school. I was given the opportunity to go to a conference at UCLA. And this conference was, it was called the National Youth Leadership Forum on Medicine. And when I went to that, I understood that the way that I look at leadership was different than my peers. And I genuinely do believe that it is from my upbringing in the Baha'i faith, because I believe that every single person has a part to play. But at the same time, to say that that person can play my part is not fair to me. So I learned a lot of things there, and that kind of set me on the course for when later on, when I was in my second year of college, I got invited to a conference called Envision. And what this was it was a continuation of that, but it was a worldwide thing. It was built around developing communications with doctors, with researchers. And when I did that, I went to the NIH. It's the National Institute of Health in Bethesda. And when I went there, I met a lot of different people that were interested in my growth. They were interested in where I was going, and they were very interested in getting me to be a part of it. So after I finished my biology degree, I worked as a kind of consultant for them in the virology segment. And so right now I'm like a consultant on behalf of the NIH for California. And what it is I work with the memorial type hospitals, not necessarily the HMOs like Kaiser, but more of the community built hospitals that the NIH can help fund and I can consult on to kind of be that bridge that builds the two. So that's what I'm doing now in terms of the COVID-19 pandemic. And then obviously since I went to that, I had a lot of colleagues in South Korea, China,
of course,
Australia, and was able to get about 20,000 tests into the US, into Los Angeles in about 2 weeks ago.
Oh,
So
that's
it's
excellent because we
not
definitely
much,
needed those
but
tests.
I'm trying to do as much as we can. You know what I mean? It's not necessarily up to, it's not necessarily for me. It's not enough for the government to say we're doing something. For me, it's more of like as an individual, and this is something that the Baha'i faith teaches us, that, you know, the individual sets the tone. You know,
Mhm.
if you feel that you can do something and you think it will benefit people, then you have to go ahead and do it. And that's how I felt from an early position after I learned about this pandemic.
Yeah, and that's exactly right. It's up to every, the change starts with the individuals. So these tests, these things, it's up to the government to procure that, but the individuals are the ones who need to demand that from the different governments and facilities and have them work on that. That's great. So seeing as how the world is, so it's really quite chaotic right now. What writings or what teachings have really helped you sort of compensate for that and find a sense of serenity or peace in that?
I think like the first thing that I would say to that is, you know, separating my, you know, when I was first coming up with the biology understanding and understanding of biology, I, in a way, inadvertently, of course, in a way, distances myself from the faith, because I felt that that became the primary focus of my life.
Hmm.
But now, where, you know, biology has become like the new buzzword of the year, or, you know, virology has become the buzzword of the year, it's, to me, it's not enough. You know, even if before it wasn't enough, but now I feel it even more, is that I have to return to the text. So, for example, you know, The Call of Nations by Shoghi Effendi, or The Advent of Divine Justice, those usually help me. The Secret of a Divine Civilization, um, but also just looking back at, you know, the book 4 of the Ruhi Institute. You know,
Hmm.
looking back at, you know, the history of the manifestations that we hold as manifestation for this day, these days and age, of Bob and Baha'u'llah, and seeing the suffering that they had to go through, and understanding that no matter how much we suffer now, nothing will compare to the suffering that they went through for us. So that gives me pause. You know, as much as I love looking at the things of Shoghi Effendi and the beauty of what is to come, for me, also looking back at what has transpired, you know, how difficult it was in that time, helps me kind of be solid in my foundation.
Um, it's really important now to recognize that suffering that they went through their entire lives, that the whole world is also suffering now, too. But you put it in perspective, is that that suffering is what causes growth, and since the whole world is suffering, hopefully out of this we really grow as a world community, and as individual states and nations and individual people to take this and learn from it and truly grow closer to one another.
I mean, I think definitely the world is suffering right now on an unprecedented scale, but I think that it's a lot more. We can't look away now. You know, before, the world would suffer, and, you know, a small demographic of people would
Hmm.
look at that suffering and say, "Oh, okay, they're suffering. Those people are suffering." But I think the power and the potency of viruses is that they don't care what social class or how much money you have in the bank. They are, their only purpose is, you know, to multiply, to use, you know, the machinery that is in a living organism to their advantage. That is what a virus does. It cannot serve its purpose without the organism.
Hmm.
So, and I think that's what makes it so scary, and that's why people are taking it so seriously. Um, and, you know, I'm in a way, I'm glad that people are taking it seriously, but we still have a lot of work to do.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. More people need to take it more seriously because we still have people, gathering, going to parties, and that's just It's not good. That's not how we, what is it? A flatten the curve. To
I
keep
mean,
up.
right now, the thing that I'm seeing is in Arizona and Florida, they are marking golf courses as essential places of work, or essential places. And I don't see how that is a realistic thing. But I mean, as Baha'is, I think it is. I mean, just as a human being, I think it's important to spread the love of understanding, not necessarily just pure understanding, but a loving understanding that I'm caring for you.
Mhm.
I'm caring for your loved ones. I will gladly take a little bit of a hit if you are safe. Um, and I think the human population is seeing that. It's seeing that people are willing, as we see with these lockdowns, and most people are listening. They're
Mhm.
staying in their homes and they're saying, okay, well, if I can do something, I can limit the spread, then I'll do it. Setting the tone, as we said. It's just that's I think one of the things that in the Baha'i faith it always tells us, like, what you do leaves a trace, meaning that your essence not only exists just in your reality, but exists in other people's reality and affects their other reality.
Absolutely. And the thing is, people always want to save the world.
Mm-hmm.
They want to do good in the world. And this is the best time to do that, because now you can save other lives literally by doing nothing,
Mm-hmm.
by staying home and just enjoying time at home, or lone walks alone. But there are a lot of scared people. So the recommendations that um, organizations like the CDC give, they get a lot of flack because they were a little late to the game on some of the stuff, on some of the announcements. Last week it was don't wear face masks. Now they're considering the face masks. But you have to understand, they're working with this as it evolves. This is an ongoing pandemic. And so the recommendation, if they change it to wear face masks, that's what they believe is in the interest of the public. And so it's important to recognize that these people really are trying to help you and all of us for the greater good. And so these recommendations to wear face masks or to wash your hands, to distance, these are all things to help us, and they need to be listened to on a massive scale in order to really help and save lives.
I think what the root cause of that is, people believe that just because a person is in a or a corporation or a company or whatever is in a form of leadership or hierarchy, then they are infallible, and they are not. No company, no person, no nothing um, on this physical plane is infallible. And as a person in the biology community, obviously we are upset with the fact that they weren't pushing that we should wear a face mask, because we know that this is a respiratory infection. It attacks the respiration, and then just from breathing, as today Dr. Fauci had explained, is that just by breathing you could be spreading it, aerosolization.
It's talking, yeah.
Yeah, and the key to remember is that they have no ill will against you. There may be special interest or what have you, but the people working in the actual company have no ill will against you. They're just doing the best they can with what they're supposed to do.
Absolutely, absolutely.
It's an unprecedented situation.
It is. And we've had pandemics in the past, such as the Spanish flu, but that was in what is essentially a different world.
Yeah. Not only
Completely.
that, I mean, nobody. It was in 1917, 1918, over 100 years ago. So really, nobody on this planet lived through that and can tell us what to expect. That's one dimension of it. And the second dimension, which you put on spot on, is the entire identity of the world has changed.
Mm-hmm.
We are a globalized world now. We are dealing with, airplane travel, that a person from China can go to US and then from US go somewhere else and spread. The virus doesn't care. Its main thing is, I need an organism, and you guys, you're transmitting it. And that's why the lockdowns are so important.
Yeah, absolutely essential. And one of the most important things is those lockdowns, because that keeps it from spreading. And when a virus doesn't spread, a virus doesn't spread. It's
If you don't give it a means of transmission to another individual, then it will not spread. It's the way I kind of explain it to the people I usually tutor about viruses is that it does not affect you unless you go into its domain. It's not gonna come into your house unless you bring it in your house.
yeah, and the holy writings, Christianity, Islam, the Baha'i faith, they all focus on these tidbits as far as not spreading viruses. In the Quran, it says if a plague starts in a country, don't travel to it. If a plague starts in a country where you are in, don't leave from it. And it's this is hundreds of years ago, but it's relevant now in the Quran. And Baha'u'llah says to seek physicians, competent physicians, when you have medical ailments. So these things that all the holy writings have touched on, the Baha'i faith included, are relevant for mankind even now. And so that the importance of the Word of God really can help progress humanity in just unfounded, unknowable ways.
I mean, even playing off that, I think they didn't know the way that the world would occur, but they knew that if, let's say, there is a plague, you wouldn't want to spread it to your neighbor. You wouldn't want to spread it to another country and have them have to deal with it. You would say, okay, it's here now. What are you going to do about it?
Mm-hmm.
I think I get from what you were explaining is that, just what I was saying is like we set the tone as the human individual. We together with the collective, we choose to see how we're going to respond. And I think that's what this virus is really telling us, is saying, okay, what do you want to do about it? It's here now. What do you want to do about it?
Mm-hmm. And that's what some people take it as a sign of God, an apocalyptic sign or an end times or a judgment or something like that. But this is a sign of nature. The Baha'i faith, we teach science and religion coexist. And so this disease, this is natural. These viruses, they mutate, they transmit, they do their thing because they're a force of nature. This is not probably some godly punishment, but God has provided the teachings that when these things happen, these natural disasters, floods, etc., these teachings provide us a way to both understand them and to the desire to help other people during them, So
yeah, I mean, playing off that, most viruses that have this kind of tendency to become novel, this word that you hear so much, is what it means by novel, meaning that it's never been seen, it's never been identified in humans.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that it would never have come and affected a human, it's a zoonotic virus, meaning that it came from animals, meaning it's been in animals, it just never came to humans. It didn't come to humans until we, this is the funny part, until we took the animal and said, okay, we're going to use the animal for our means.
Mm-hmm.
And then, well, we're literally saying, okay, well, I guess we don't care about the issues that are present. It's a priority-based problem, I believe. And I think when you understand the religions of the past and the religion for this day and age, you understand, okay, this is just humanity getting out of control in the way of not understanding its priorities, not understanding how,
it's
fragile.
balance. Yeah, it's balance and its interaction with the rest of the world. Humans, we tend to think of ourselves as pretty untouchable by nature, generally, even though, disasters happen, we always recover from it. So we kind of tend to think of ourselves as untouchable, but that's not true. We're in a symbiotic relationship with the rest of creation.
I mean, that's what this virus really represents to most virologists, and that's what viruses really represent to us, is that they inhabit this funny ground of what is life.
Yeah, absolutely. Because
And that's why they're so scary.
yeah,
Because people are like, okay, it's not living, it's not doing what I think something living would do, but look at how much it can destroy.
yeah, because a virus essentially, some scientists are on both sides of this, but essentially, it's not a living thing. It's a chemical reaction in the simplest form.
So to simplify, to kind of explain exactly what a virus is, it is a bunch of genetic material. It could be DNA, it could be RNA, it could be single-stranded or double-stranded. And it has a capsid. And this capsid is like a protein coat or some kind of coat.
With the coronavirus, it's a fatty coating.
Fat coating, protein, I mean, fatty protein, it's some kind of coat that holds this genetic material in. And then that genetic material is able to say, hey, I'm not foreign. Not only am I not foreign, let me into your cell. And then when he says, let me put you in your cell, he says, okay, now that I'm in your cell, stop making what you're making and make me.
Mm-hmm.
You see? So that's essentially what a virus does. You know, there's complexities in all different levels of the different viruses, and there's many that we don't know. See, that's the thing about viruses, is that it's not a subject that we give very much importance to. Yes, that may change now.
Yeah.
But before, you know, when I was fascinated, and I still am with them, they were not considered a priority.
Mm-hmm.
But as a person that studied biology, you understand and you see them and you say, you know, these things, they don't play by the rules that we play by.
Oh, absolutely not. And
I
they
think
don't discriminate. They don't believe in borders. You can't outrun a pandemic. They do, as they are a force of nature.
And the thing is that they go after living cells.
Mm-hmm.
And that means that the only way that you are immune from getting it before ever seeing it is if you're dead.
Mm. Yeah, and that's the danger of a novel virus in the situation we have now.
Well, just any virus will attack living cells. So as a human being, no matter who you are, no matter what age group you are, the virus will try to infect you.
All made up all of cells.
Yeah. I mean, that's the beauty of it, is that that's why virologists are so impressed by them, because it's not only the fact that they have these mechanisms to get into the cell, it's the fact that it doesn't matter what your cell, how good your immune system is. They are so adapted to attack the cells and to get in them and to say, you work me, you don't work you, that we still to this day, virologists don't understand how they're able to do this.
Yeah, and there's a whole subcategory of virology on bacteriophage that we won't get into. Very complicated, lots of stuff, but there's viruses for every bacteria you could think of that specialize in those bacteria. It's such a complicated, important area of study.
I mean, and I think that's the problem, see, is that it's complicated, you know, and it goes back to what we were saying about the faith, you know, to understand the depth of the revelation of God in all the times is complicated, you know, and it requires diligence and it requires patience, really. Because as we're seeing now, most estimates put a vaccine about 6 to 12 months away.
Oof, that long, huh?
It's not, see, the thing is, vaccines take a very long time to develop, not necessarily in understanding what works, but understanding when it works, is it going to cause more issues than benefits?
The long-term effects.
That's the problem. It's not necessarily, okay, we can take care of the virus, but what's going to happen after we take care of the virus? You see, what else are we going to be doing that's why biology is such a messy science. You know, we call biology the messy science
And it's
because
ever changing. You
yeah.
know, my goodness, probably more than any other branch of science, except maybe physics, but even more than physics for sure.
I
I
was telling one of my friends this yesterday. You know, physics follows laws.
Mhm.
You know, laws that you identify and then they're proven, right? But biology, the reason we consider it a messy science is because we look at it and we say, okay, we see this and it's doing that. So then that's what we know. But we don't say that's how it is. You see? We
Yeah,
may say that in our language, but as a person that studies it, genuinely we say that's what we see, not what we know. And that's why it's so important as a person that's studying biology to always remember that that's the key of biology, is that we only know what we can see, not what it's going to become and what's going to happen next. And that again goes back to, and that's why I love biology, because it really connects to my faith. In that, you know, I love Baha'u'llah, I love the Bab, and I've always been committed to them. But the complexity of my relationship to understand what it means to be a Baha'i or what it means to be a person that loves God is ever changing. It doesn't just sit still. And that's part of the whole understanding of viruses and biology, is that no matter how much knowledge we have right now in this current time, it does not reflect our understanding. You know, that's I think what that's why for me I was always interested in biology and especially viruses, because we know so little, but we at the same time we know, as persons in biology, know that they have the power potential that is much greater than anything, and we're seeing it now.
absolutely. Well, it's been wonderful to have your viewpoint on that as a scientist, educated scientist, and a man of God. And that's what, you know, people oftentimes they think you have to be either religious or scientific. And sometimes they don't even think you can, they don't even consider the idea that you could be both. And the Baha'i teachings really emphasize that science and religion are the wings of a bird. You have to have both for it to fly. Um, so again, it's great to have the opinion and
Of
the
course.
facts given from an educated, scientific, religious person. So it's been a wonder to have you on here. Is before we end this, is there anything you would like to tell people who may be, you know, afraid or fearful in this time, that to alleviate their fears and give them something that can help them feel better and help the society as a whole?
I would say understand that this requires patience, and that no matter what they come out with, no matter what kind of developments we have in the biological field to fight this, which we have many things on the way, it's important to understand that you as the individual set the tone, and that humanity will grow from this understanding, just as it does with everything that sets it back in a way. But to be aware that you your entity, you are the one you can control, and that means that you need to take care of yourself and your family. And at the same time, when you do that, you will be helping the masses around the world. So
Yeah.
that's what I would say.
Excellent. So yeah, wash hands, listen to the recommendations from experts like CDC or whatever your country's version of that is, from WHO, the World Health Organization. Listen to those recommendations. Keep your distance. Don't go out unless you need necessary supplies. Don't buy in bulk. Um,
Panic
supply
buy.
yeah, don't panic buy. Supply chains are still working, they're still running. And when you panic buy, you stress these chains, and then you leave people who need them, elderly especially, without these supplies. So just, you know, focus on the self, but keep others in mind as well. And so thank you, Adib, for being on the show. We'd love to have you back sometime, especially as this progresses, get some more insight from you in the future.
Anytime.
Yeah, great. So
Anytime.
thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, do all the YouTube stuff. Yeah, you have a wonderful day and stay healthy. Goodbye.